Let's go. It is episode number 4. I'm here with Jameson and Tony, and we are here to bring Buff- Buffalo Bills faithful to you, the viewers, and we would love for you to subscribe if you could, and watch this podcast. Share it with you with other people if you could. We're really excited about tonight's episode because, guys, we're in the playoffs. We knew that already. We're the number 2 seed, and we have a home game this weekend against none other than the team we actually wanted when we talked about this podcast a while back, the Denver Broncos. Now, we're not wanting to talk like we want to make this come out to be easy or anything, but we are excited about this upcoming matchup, and so we want to talk about that tonight. We have a few other things to splash in there as we're making our way through navigating through tonight's episode. So sit back, relax. We'd love for you to join us, and like I said, subscribe if you could. So, guys, as we're talking about this, I want to get your thoughts on, first off, the upcoming playoff game against Denver at home this Sunday. It should be a crazy crowd. It is a 1 o'clock game, I believe, Sunday afternoon. Nowhere, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? So let me get your thoughts. Tone, what are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before with who we wanted to see match up against. And again, that's not to say we can just blow the doors off anybody, right? Broncos are still a playoff team. But I think overall, if you're looking at the teams we could have played, I didn't want to play Miami again because they're kind of due at some point to win a game against us because we've been dominating them.
True.
Burrow was hot. He's just been slinging it all over the place. Didn't want to play them. Chargers, I feel like, are a tougher matchup physicality-wise. Steelers I would have taken, but that wasn't going to happen. So I think out of the options, Broncos were in. Biggest thing for me is that they have a rookie quarterback. I know he's done well. He had a really good week last week, but it was against, second, third stringers, right? They are loose. That's the tough part with this for me.
Great.
They're hungry, they're loose, they have nothing to lose. And they have a really good coach. So they're going to be ready. I think that the big thing for me, the key to the game, I think, is to weather the storm early. I think they're going to come out just swinging. And if we can put them down 7 or 14, really start putting the pressure on them, and just have some long, sustained drives, I think we can really handle the game nicely. But I think that early on, even if do you guys remember the Miami game, the playoff game with who was the backup quarterback? Wasn't it that Skylar Thompson we played?
Yeah, Thompson. That's right.
Do you remember in the beginning of that game, like Allen had a fumble? Remember, they were making some plays. It just felt weird. That's what I don't want, right?
Right.
So if we can weather that first quarter, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah. James, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think the only part that really would give me worry is that I think their defense is pretty elite. It's not probably, top of the tier in probably a couple of years. I think it could be really, really high up. And they got a great coach. And like Uncle Tony said, I mean, they're loose. Their projected win total preseason was like 5.5. So them just making the playoffs, I mean, they're one of probably, I would say them and maybe the Commanders are like the two teams that's like, just because they made the playoffs, that's already a win. So anything from here is bonus if it even happens. And meanwhile, the Bills, if they lost wild card, people would be talking about, okay, McDermott probably has to go or something like that. There's a lot more pressure, I think, on the Bills, of course. So that can kind of change things mentally and stuff like that. But if we can't beat the Broncos wild card, we're not winning the Super Bowl. So it's I'm excited for it. I think last year things just felt weird going into the game, especially with the Bengals and stuff. I think with all the recent emotional up and downs of the team, it just felt like, man, it's just the toll kind of finally caught up. I think this year I'm really excited. I think I'm more excited this year than I have been in the last couple of years and stuff, maybe since 2020 or 2021. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a great matchup. We don't allow sacks, and they get to the quarterback the most. They've done, I think, 63 sacks this year, which is the first and one of the highest teams probably in the last decade. I think they're in the top 10, and we're in the opposite.
Wow.
We've given up the one of the least amount of sacks since like 2003 or something like that. So that matchup is going to be really interesting to me, but I'm really excited. I think we'll come out on top, but it's gonna be a hard fought win.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I feel like there's this overarching like feeling, and maybe it's just past games, past experiences that whether we've gone through them or the players. I mean, the players have gone through this. I mean, they have experience, which I love, of what it's going to take. But I feel like there's this, I don't know, feeling of Super Bowl or bust kind of feeling, and I believe it's because what we have seen this team do. Now, early on in the season, you guys, it was like I really wasn't sure what I was going to see. And after watching this team, now I know we got beat by Baltimore, which is like, oh, we're going to have to play Baltimore maybe if we win and stuff like that. I'm okay with that because we've beaten Kansas City. We beat Detroit. We should have beat LA. But I mean, those teams were putting up some good points. They're not like
Yeah.
20 to 17 games, and we're like we're playing well. The one thing I am concerned about, I want to hear what your guys' take on this is like as you're thinking about the scheme of what you want to how we want to come out, with like specifically like offense and defense. I'm a little concerned at our defense. I'm wondering what your guys' take is. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the offense, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the defense first. What kind of defensive scheme do you think the Bills will come out at? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Denver's got a lot of film on teams that are putting points on the board for against us. So, thoughts on that? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Um, I think Broncos are known for the run game. I don't maybe. I think he's the main running back. I forgot who the backup is. I think maybe McLaughlin or something like that. Nothing that scares me too much there. So I don't think the Bills are going to be high press against them. I think they're going to drop back and not let Cortland Sutton or the kind of the burst right now of Marvin Mims Jr. Those guys are really fast on the perimeter. I think they're going to, if I'm the Broncos, that's my strength. And I'm going to attack that. But I really want the Bills to see, we're not playing Lamar, but Bo Nix made some plays with his legs. And I really would love to see kind of a spy on him. I would love to see Dorian Williams there or Bernard. He's fresh off a few weeks of sitting and stuff like that. I think that's going to be really nice. I think they're going to come out not super tight for the running back of the run game, but they're going to go after Bo Nix, and I think that's a good idea. I'm a rookie quarterback in the conditions. I think they should go after him and then watch out for those big plays. They don't want to. They're going to limit that as much as possible. But that's
Yeah,
for the defense side, I think. Yeah.
good take.
Yeah, I think, similar to what Jameson said, we're a zone team. I don't think we change that here. But I do think, like Jameson said, I think we're going to send more blitzes this time around.
Hmm.
But like Jameson said, too, we got to have a spy there. So that's going to be a balance. It'll be interesting to see. That one of the frustrating things for me this year has been how much yardage we give up on the defensive side, even though it's sort of bend don't break. In the red zone, we do well, right? I think it'll probably be more of the same this week. And while that makes for a tougher game to watch sometimes, it makes it kind of crazy. And you're like, oh my gosh, are we ever going to stop them? I think they'll play more of the same, but I do think they're really going to dial up the pressure this week.
Yeah. And as you were listening to, as with the interviews from this past week, especially with Josh sharing, just like they've got a few things maybe holding back. They don't want to show all their stuff kind of stuff. And I agree with both your takes. And I also think that they're going to do that on the defensive side as well. So they may bring up a Taron Johnson blitz or whatever, or who knows, I mean, they've I think we're going to need to put some pressure on Bo for sure. Big time offensively. I think we're going to show some different schemes. I really think Shakir's going to have a great game this Sunday. I feel like I think they're going to have a spy on Josh the whole time. I think they're going to really, really try to hold Josh from running, which is very hard to do. So when they do that, I think Josh is going to have maybe a little bit of an escape route. and that could be dumping passes off to Kincaid or Shakir in those slot passes, which I love. And I love our running backs. Again, you guys, I think James Cook is going to have a good game too. And our Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. I love those three. They're working so well together, and I love it. So I'm excited about that game. I'm looking forward to watching it. But hopefully the fans are hype. We're 8-0 at home. I'd love to make it 9. And I'm looking at it. So any last minute thoughts before we move on to our next segment, guys?
Did you guys watch the Lions Vikings game? I know you guys did, right?
I did.
So, did you guys notice how the Lions defense really clamped down against Minnesota?
Especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I think we're in for that kind of
yeah.
To be honest with you, I think the Bills are really. I think we've been putting a lot of vanilla out there lately, especially if you think about it. I mean, we clinched week 12, right?
Yes.
So I know we were still going for that 1 seed, but I think we've been putting in quite a bit of vanilla since the Lions game. So I think we're going to have a good, solid defensive performance this week. I think it's going to be like how the Lions were against the Vikings this past week. That's
good.
My take on it.
I like that.
I would love that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Guys, it is something new this week. Guess what? I've come up with something new for our podcast. It's called Fact or Fiction, as we kind of roll with another little fun little thing that we want to throw in on our podcast as you guys are listening. We'd love to get your thoughts. If you have any comments, throw them in there below. That'd be great. So I'm going to ask these guys a few statements. Not really questions, but I'm just going to state some statements to these guys, and I'm just going to get their thoughts. Do they think it's fact, or do they think it's fiction? And I'd love to hear from both of them. So check this out, guys. I did some things as I was kind of brainstorming with this kind of idea, and I want to get your thoughts on this first one. Here's the statement. Is this fact or fiction? Von Miller will stay with the Bills for another season. Jameson, fact or fiction?
Oh, I wish I knew more about his contract situation. I think because it's an extension, I don't know how much dead money we would lose I don't think we'd cut or anything like that. If we win the Super Bowl, I mean, that would be honest. I think Von Miller would actually retire, to be honest with you. But if we don't, I think either way he doesn't come back to the team. I think just with this year, I think he's had a better year this year, but I think in the history we've had him so far, I think we're ready to kind of move on from that. We're going to hopefully love him this postseason. I think hopefully he can come up with some clutch plays. But I think it's going to be fiction. I wouldn't mind seeing him back. I think he's a good leader, veteran, but I don't think he will be. But I don't know the contract as well.
We got one fiction. Tone, how about you?
Well, one thing with Von that I thought was fascinating, he was up for that bonus. What was it, about $1.5 million for last Sunday's game if he got a sack? And he got a sack, he played 3 plays or something?
Yeah.
It was in the first years. That, for me, showed me he's still got that, right?
Yeah.
So here's my take on it. I'm fiction as well. I think if they do well and win the Super Bowl, hopefully, or go to it, I think, like Jameson said, Von's retired, and that makes the decision for us. If we don't pass the first or second round this year, I think Von's gone.
Gotcha.
I just haven't seen the production. So I would say fiction as well.
Fiction for number 1. Nice job, guys. Number 2, Brandon Beane will spend money and get a top 10 wide receiver for Josh next year. Now, top 10 is fluctuating there, but basically he's going to go out and get somebody high name.
Big namer kind of?
Yes.
Okay. Like
want me to go first, Jameson?
Like a T. Higgins kind of thing? Is that
like
kind
a
of
T? That's fine. That works. Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, I'm just trying to get the gauge of the talent. Sure, go ahead.
Sure. I would say fiction because this year proved we don't need a number 1 receiver. In fact, I think it actually hindered Josh when we had a number one receiver. I think a lot of that with Diggs, even though he was great, and I think he needed him early on those first couple of years. I think it got to the point where Josh felt more pressure to get Diggs the ball, especially late in the game, rather than just find whoever's there, right? So I think we tied the record for number of people who caught a touchdown this year. I don't think you need that number one receiver. And honestly, I think it's an overvalued position because, as you guys see every year, studs come out with wide receivers, right? And once they hit 30, they kind of fall off a cliff. My opinion, I'd say fiction, and I would say if they were to spend money somewhere, I feel like we'd take a shot at an edge rusher, a bigger name edge rusher. I think we need that bad. We kind of swung and missed with Von, just from a variety of things. But I think that's where we probably send the money. So I'd say fiction on this one.
Dane, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't want to be like keep agreeing with each other, stuff like that. But I think fiction as well, and that's because the same kind of thing. I think the whole team in itself loves kind of the way our offense is working right now. I think I'm also trying to think of maybe some top names that are going to be in the free agency next year, and like Teakins came to mind and stuff. And a lot of those guys, I don't know this totally, but it just seems like that top level wide receivers, they kind of start getting in that diva mindset, and they want the ball, they want that kind of stuff. I'd rather have kind of this Amari Cooper kind of guy who is like a team player. I know he's getting older too. The reason why it's probably not as much I'm close to fact is just because our receivers aren't great in separation. I think Keon Coleman's a big 50-50 ball catcher. I love that guy. But he's not great at separating. Shakir is great, but he's undersized and he's more of a slot guy. So it's kind of hard to find that guy who's got separation. I know Cooper's aged a little bit, so I can see them going for someone who can kind of be another asset to the team. But I don't think it's going to be like a top 10 big name. I don't see being splashing money there.
Nice, gentlemen. Good job. We got one more fact or fiction.
Awesome.
Last one. Joe Brady will be a head coach in 2025. As you know, this is a big one for as recent because of all the different coach carousels that have been happening in the past week. Will Joe Brady be a head coach in 2025? Is that a fact or fiction? Tony, what do you think?
Ooh, this is tough.
Yeah.
Wow. There's a lot of openings this year. So there's a lot to choose from. That is tough. It's only been, a year and a half, right? That he's been
It has. Yes, that's right. He joined halfway through last year.
I'm going to say fact. I think there's enough teams out there that are hungry for an offensive-minded coach. And if you really look at what talent-wise we have on our roster outside of Josh and maybe Cook, I mean, we don't have any superstars, right? And we've probably squeezed as much out of that unit as we can, and that speaks a lot to Joe Brady. Especially the other thing I think is really impressive with him, they do such a good job at halftime to make adjustments. I think that's been the strength of our team this year. I can't tell you how many games. I mean, it's been almost every game where we've gone into halftime and we're doing okay or we're down, and we come out second half blazing. Our third quarter is just fantastic. So I'm going to say fact. I'm going to say he's going to find a job, and then we're going to be off to whoever the next OC is.
Right. James.
Yeah, it's tough. I'll say fiction here, and it's not. I think would be a great candidate for a lot of teams. But I was trying to think of all the different coordinators and coaches that are getting interviewed and openings and stuff like that. And I think though he is one of the top offensive minded, I think that's going to be out there. I think a lot of teams are going to be more in the likes of someone like Ben Johnson. I feel like kind of from the line stuff like that. I think Ben Johnson is kind of one of those guys who's like, oh my gosh, he's been in the league a little bit longer than Joe, I think. I'm not positive on that, but I know he's a little bit older, kind of that same offensive minded, and he's doing that kind of offense with Jared Goff's a solid quarterback, but he's not a Josh Allen either, and they've got more weapons than us, I think people would argue. But I think that teams maybe will focus more on that, and that means there might be some left over. But I don't know. I think Brady really likes the vibe of the Bills right now. He's 35 years old. I can see him kind of hanging around for another year before he really jumps on that. But that's just me. We'll see.
Hey, nice takes, gentlemen. That's fact or fiction, everybody. And these guys just stated a little bit of what they feel is their fact or fiction of those last three things. Thanks, guys. Good job. Those are some tough questions. Which leads us to our last segment, which is Jameson's stat of the day, and then we'll have the last few things at the end here. James, do you have a stat of the day for us as we go through podcast number 4 here? We're curious. Tony and I are curious.
I do. I'm going to focus on I was kind of looking up some stuff, and I think I want to do a Josh Allen one. But real quick, I saved this photo, and I don't know if the camera will be able to see it, stuff like that, but this is like a list of all the NFL records Josh Allen has broken or tied. All of these words like first, most, fastest, all these things. Look at that list of just this year that he has. And I don't know, you're probably not able to read it, but just look at the length of that. I mean, some of these are incredible. And I think, but my real stat is that he is, after they won a couple weeks ago, he surpassed Russell Wilson for the most regular season wins by QB in their first 7 seasons. So now he has the most wins, total touchdowns, and total yards by any player all time in their first 7 seasons. And I just feel historically, that's not common for us. We don't have these winners. They don't have these big guys that are just coming in just producing at this level. The last 7 years have been just a joyride. I mean, the statistics that this guy is pulling off, I mean, it's just incredible. Most wins, touchdowns, and yards by any player all time. First 7 season, passes all the greats. If he wins a ring or 2 by the time he retires, he will be considered one of the greatest football players and QBs of all time. Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. So that's my stat of the day. Fact. It's incredible having our team. So
great fact. Absolutely.
And not just best quarterback. I mean, maybe best athlete. It's just insane. Yeah. He's just a freak. It's amazing.
It's insane. Yeah. Insane.
Great stat, James. It's going to come down, I think, to Josh, which I think we've said it in this podcast before. I've said it to these guys in a text. When you have Josh Allen on your team can do anything. That's probably one of the things Denver's like, we have got to keep him off the field this weekend. And I just hope that they're unable to do that. Josh is able to just continue to do what he's doing because this ride, like Jameson said, has been just amazing to watch. So, yeah. Good point.
So what's the weather this weekend? It's not going to be a factor, right?
There's supposed to be some.
Double check.
Yeah, Jay might have it. I think it's supposed to have some snow before. There's like this winter storm that's south of us. We're going to get some snow. But I think by Sunday,
snowing Saturday. Let's see. Yeah, by Sunday, it's cloudy, 30 degrees. It's gonna be cold. Saturday, it's gonna be snowing, but it's in the morning. Saturday, so it's more like Friday to Saturday, and then it's gonna cool off. So,
geez, we'll take 30. That's like a summer game.
It is
at this point.
It is.
That's awesome. So I have a question for you guys. So we're in playoff mode, right? This is our week of playoffs. I was looking back. This is the 6th year in a row we've been in the playoffs.
2019, yes.
19 Texans.
Yep.
Right? That was the one we lost. Lost that one, and then the 2020 season was when we went to the AFC Championship, right?
Correct.
Against the Chiefs?
Yep.
Or was that 21? I know we played okay. That's right, because we lost in the AFC Championship. It wasn't close. That's right. Okay.
No, we got smoked, and then next year was close, but divisional. That was the 13-2 game.
Yes.
And then 22. Yeah.
That's right. So my question is this:
I think Josh Allen's 5-5 in his playoffs now, so he's got
5-5. Yes. So my question is this. We have a pretty good portfolio of playoff experience at this point. So Jamie and I know a little bit more of the older playoff regime. Jameson, you know more of the most recent, right? But I want to ask both of you, what's your favorite playoff moment? Could be from Kelly days, could be from Allen days. What's your favorite playoff moment?
Right away for me, it's maybe not. Okay, if we're going okay, game and moment's different. Game, I was going to say Patriots when we just blew them out. That was almost like, to me, that was like, this is our division now. And since then, it has been just absolutely perfect game. That's probably my favorite game. And then moment, I actually love when, even though we lost the game, Allen throwing that touchdown to Gabe Davis with 13 seconds left and him on the sideline just gave me chills. Like it was, I was like awestruck. It was incredible feelings. I that's the most high and low I've ever been probably ever in sports and stuff. But that high with that moment, it was so cool in the moment. And I love seeing that video of him just getting so hype on the sidelines and stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah. I have two. I don't know why this one keeps coming to my mind, but it was COVID year. And Taron Johnson intercepting Lamar at the one.
Oh yes.
And he ran it back. I don't know what I loved about that so much, but that just sticks in my mind. I watch that video and I hear the broadcaster, who is that, Murph, at that point, going crazy. I loved that game because I was like, and there was like 5,000 people in there, but it sounded like there was 40, 50,000. That was a cool one for me. I did like when we beat Raiders 51-3 in the Kelly days. I think that was a playoff game to maybe get us either to the championship or that got us to the Super Bowl. I could not remember that one.
It was the first AFC championship.
Yes, that was the one. We won 50. Wasn't it 51-3, Tone?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That team. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So those two are striking a chord to me right now.
Love that.
But yeah, I would have to agree with James. Oh man, the the thrill and the high and the low that you felt at that stupid 13-second game. I don't even want to call it that anymore. That Chief Bills game was so awesome. Just a great game. Just a great game. So
I still think that was probably the best game ever.
Agreed.
Maybe playoff or regular. That was insane. I would say moment was our win against the Colts, our first playoff win after we hadn't won a playoff game, right? So that would have been 20. I remember I was watching the game. That was a 1:00 game. That was COVID year.
It was.
I remember I was watching with the boys. Yep. I was watching with the boys in the living room. And they made it close, remember? They threw a pick at the end. And I literally fell on the ground and I started crying. I was so excited. The boys didn't know what to do. They were so freaked out. But it was hilarious. So that for me, probably moment-wise, as far as game, I have to go back to the Bills-Oilers. My experience was different. Jamie was at the game. It was a blackout.
Yes, it was.
The crazy thing is, if you think about this, is wild to think about. The Bills were at a point in, what was that, 94, where the fans were over it. Like, we were a wild card team that year. The fans were over losing, and they didn't sell the game out. The game wasn't sold out. That game was blacked out. So I had to listen to that on the radio. And hearing that game with Van Miller calling it, and every little bit they were coming back. I remember being up in the computer room up there, Papa's den up there, just listening to the radio and going nuts and hearing Van Miller. Man, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. So that was my memory. Yeah.
That's a good one. I was there. Yeah, I remember that to this day. I wish I would have heard Van. I heard Van in the highlights after.
So good.
So good.
Well, I have to throw this out there because it's been all over. So I have to get your guys' take. Who's the MVP? Is it going to be Josh? What are we thinking? I know we had a different conversation about this about 3 weeks ago. But what are we thinking? Jameson, what do you think?
Okay. I think before 3 weeks ago, I would have said the league will lean on Josh. Now it's really close, and I just feel like for me, it's still Josh. I think we'll all probably say that. I mean, that could be a little bit of bias too, but just I hope they don't look at just the stats that are easy to put up on a chart of the 41 touchdowns and stuff, because I think if it's a stats award, that's something different, And I think Allen would have won it multiple times by now. I think the three things that I would say to stick out to me is one, Allen and Lamar. Okay, when Lamar throws for 30 plus pass attempts in the games this year, he's 2-5. Allen does that, we're 7-1. Okay, so to me right there, that's like that's value.
Cool.
If your player is playing more, your MVP, they're winning more. Okay, like that makes sense to me. Two, I think it's with a less skilled group. I think Allen's doing it with when you've got Derrick Henry running the ball for you, and Lamar's thrown many games of under 20 pass attempts because Derrick Henry's run for 130 yards. It makes it a lot easier, and the defense is totally different. And I think it's just, I think wide receiver group, you can argue for different things. I don't think our receivers are, if people think that we're worse than the Ravens, I don't think it's that far off. I'm not going to say that's like, a hindrance on Allen. But I think just having Derrick Henry there for that kind of thing, I think he's doing more with less in the general thing. That's my opinion. The third thing I would say is this guy, he's beaten both 1 seeds. Okay. First, I mean, that's not just him beating these teams, but first team, quarterback leading the team to beat 2 teams that end up being 15 wins. Okay. That's never happened before. Beats both 1 seeds and gets the 2 seed in the AFC. Meanwhile, the Ravens didn't have the division locked up to the very last week. So to me, that just, I mean, I don't know. Those 3 things stick out to me the most. You can pick out stats, other things. I've seen things of like Allen's receivers have, almost like a negative separation percentage compared to the Ravens. I've seen all the stuff, but those are the 3 things that stick out to me. And I think when you're looking at really who's the most valuable player to their team, Allen accounts for 80% of that team's yards. He probably doesn't account for as much percentage touchdowns this year because of Cook. But I guarantee both are probably higher than Lamar. And to me, he's more valuable to our team. You take Allen out, you put Mitch in. Okay, the Bills are not a 2 seed. I think if not saying the Ravens are still a 3 seed without Lamar, but I don't think they're also just a bottom half team all of a sudden either. Yeah. So that's those are my thoughts, and I think Allen should be MVP. I don't know who's going to get it though.
Jamie, what do you think, man?
I think it's going to be very, very close. I think there's going to be some voters out there who are going to look at stats. I really do think they're going to look at the numbers, which is fine. They should. But I believe the MVP is more than that. I believe what James is saying, I think, and I totally agree with him, is Josh makes people around him look good and look better. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just when he is out there, the whole team just literally rises, and he is the most valuable person on that team. When both teams are even out there, I believe he is the best player out there. He's a freak athlete. What he's done this year, from the naysayers in the beginning to now, he has taken a team to be. I mean, we literally could have been 14-3. Are we 13-4? Is that right? We're 13-4, right?
13-4. Yep.
Yeah. So we almost had 14 wins. Almost did. He sat the last game, which he should have. That's fine. Whatever. Like Jameson said, we've beaten the top 2 teams in the NFL. We don't have Derrick Henry. I believe Derrick Henry is he might have been either the second or the third leading yards this year. Is that correct? I'm going to go to Jameson on that because I believe he almost had 2,000. So
yeah, I think it was Saquon then him. I think.
So I mean, okay, he's number 2, the second best running back in the league. is on your team.
He is second. Yep, he was
Okay.
he was 79 yards away from 2,000 rushing yards.
Right.
So
So
Great.
he won the division 12. I'm totally. I would vote for Josh Allen, and I'm not just saying that as a biased Bills fan. I would vote for
Yeah.
Josh Allen. What he's done. So
mhm.
Yeah, I think the other thing Josh has going for him is this would be the third MVP for Lamar. So if you have that thought of spreading it around a little bit, maybe they don't want to see Lamar get it again. I could see an argument there too, right? So I'm just trying to think of the possibility of it happening. I obviously think Josh is the most deserving. The other thing I was going to bring up too, Jameson, you might have eyes on this. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
How many games did Allen sit? Third quarter,
that was
fourth quarter,
yes.
and then
I got that.
obviously he has at least one last game. But if we add up those quarters, I think there's at least 4 games where he didn't play fourth quarter. That's another full game. If you think about that.
You might be right.
It was what it was. Yeah, he's sat 11 quarters this season. He started sitting midway through the season for a lot of teams. So 11 quarters, so that's 3 games. And I think people have put together, even if he has an average game, his stats are pretty much on par with Lamar's if he, does that. So
I mean, how do you not look at that? If we're talking,
no, I know.
Because they make that comparison with Saquon hitting the record against Eric Dickerson, right, with 1 less game. They make a big deal about it there. You're talking 3 less games he played. And it wasn't because of injury. You know what I mean? He also doesn't get hurt. So, I hope he wins, man. That would be awesome to see that. But I'd take a Super Bowl. I would take a Super Bowl. Put on the record.
Agreed.
Yes. I think he's the favorite right now still, and I think the last few years it's usually been the favorite going into it that's won it, which is also good news. But, yeah.
Well, as long as it's not the players voting, because they don't seem to like him very much, so we'll see.
No. He gets $1.5 million if he wins.
Seriously.
Just like Vaughn with a sack. So.
All right, guys, that'll end our podcast for podcast number 4. Great take, guys. And we will hopefully see you next week as we begin our trip to the Super Bowl with this wonderful team that we love. It's called the Bills Faithful, and thank you for joining us tonight. See ya! Go Bills.
Go Bills.